Good morning, folks. I hope that you're all doing well this week. This week's lesson plan is all about previews and the preview period and understudies and working with them. So, in the professional theater, there's often something that's called a preview period, and that could be anywhere from one performance to 4 weeks to Spider Man Turn Off the Dark, 6 months. The big thing about the preview period is that the show isn't officially open while it's in previews. Even though it's performing, it's not actually open yet. So the review isn't published. Reviews get published after shows officially open. It gives the artistic team the opportunity to work on the show with an audience so that they get to hear what the reactions are and see what they need to change. Preview rehearsals, might have designers involved still. You may be changing light cues. You may still be teching the show. It may not. You need to work with the director closely to find out what they want to work each day of rehearsal in the preview period. Um, Actors Equity Association definitely has some great rules that help protect the company, especially in something like the preview period, because you rehearse for 4 hours in the afternoon and then perform at night. So Equity will have rules about rehearsing on the day after the day off to give you time to get things done. Um, and about rehearsing on 2 show days and that sort of thing, so that you can really uh, not rehearse forever, but you can rehearse for a very long time, and the director can accomplish a great deal also just giving notes in the preview period. Um, it's not always at a not for profit, but almost always in a commercial production, there will be some sort of preview period so the director can tweak whatever needs to be tweaked in the show. Um, the one thing, and it's also in the lecture, but the one thing that I want to say very clearly about preview performances with reviewers, the stage management team will almost always know when the reviewers are coming to see the show. You should never tell the actors when that happens. You, as the stage manager or ASM, need to make sure that all the props, all the costume, everything is as clean as it can be, as crisp, as nice, as iron, as whatever it needs to be in top shape. You need to make sure that happens, but you don't want to tell the actors because they can get self conscious like anybody else when they know someone's out there judging them. Um, some actors never want to read the review ever. But when you know the reviewers are coming to see the show, which happens during the preview period so that they can publish that review once the show opens, when the reviewers come to see the show, you do not tell the cast. All right? That's just something to remember in general. Never tell the cast when the reviewers are in the show, or coming to see the show. So the other part of today's lecture is understudies. I love working with understudies. It's truly the other part of the directing area for stage managers. It's the time where you get to help people who have never seen the show, people who need to do a job and go on potentially and perform a role. Uh, you're helping them learn that role. The director is more than likely not part of that process. An associate director, an assistant director might be, but most of the shows that I've done, I've been the person who is responsible for rehearsing the understudies. And that means making sure that they have done their music work, making sure that they know the choreography, making sure that they know the blocking, making sure they know their lines. Um, And with all of it, you have to start at the very beginning with understudies. You don't want someone who is literally just mimicking somebody else's performance, but you want someone else who's bringing that performance to life. So you might have to find different ways to get them to show the same emotion on stage that the other performer does. You may have the music director in for a musical will come in first week, teach them music. A dance captain can come in and help teach choreography. And if you remember that table work that you did way back when with the regular company and how it can be really boring for a stage manager to sit there while people are talking about the script, any notes that you took in that table work suddenly become incredibly relevant to an understudy because you are literally conveying the director's words to the understudy. Um, so it becomes much more relevant to the understudy, and your words carry more weight because there's somebody else's words that mattered. Um, you don't have to rehearse understudies every single day of every single week. You just need to make sure that they are ready to go on as soon as possible. The lecture talks about how much time they get, when the director might come in to watch, all of that. Um, the other thing I want to mention there is that the understudies never actually really get to work with the regular company unless they're going on. So it's incumbent on you, the stage manager, to really make them feel part of the company because they are part of the company. Even though they don't go on stage every night, they are just as important as every other person in that theater. And I know I've said it before, but by knowing their name, by talking to them, um, you make them feel part of the entire experience. Um, Understudies, it all depends on the stage manager, the theater, what the general call is for understudies in performance. For me, I want to know that an understudy is the very least calling into backstage at half hour, 30 minutes before the show, and making sure everything's okay, and knowing that they are within 30 minutes of the theater should something go wrong. Every stage manager has different uh, rules about when understudies need to be there. On Broadway, they often need to be there until the curtain goes up on the last act because they may well go in the middle of the show if something happens. Um, Understudies have a very hard job. They always have to be ready and they may never go on. But without them, we're all risking a much larger financial loss if the show has to be canceled because there's nobody there to do the job. So that's pretty much this week's lesson plan, as it were. I want to just draw your attention, everybody, to the announcement um, in Blackboard that on Wednesday, the 29th of April from noon to 1, I'm going to have a Zoom session set up. So if anybody wants to come and talk, ask questions, your prompt book is due May 13th. Please don't forget that. Your prompt book is due emailed to me by May 13th. Um, and I will have the final questions up in the next week or so that you can start thinking about those. Um, it's not going to be hard. It's going to be like the midterm essay where you're going to have to write a short essay, but for the final, you're going to have to answer 2 questions, not 1. I think that's it for today's lesson plan. Enjoy the videos. Uh, Understudy swings, alternates. It's a crazy world when you get to the level of Broadway and making sure that that show is always going to go on. Um, anyway, I hope that you all have a great week, and I will talk to you next week.